Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. This video is going to be the List Maker's Journal, and I'll show you how I created this. We'll make one together. But I wanted to answer a couple quick questions first that had been asked through messaging and through the last video. So, Junk Journal January. These are the prompts. Meg Journals is the person who is hostessing it, and the hashtag is Junk Journal January. Now, I usually put the year behind it because she's done this for several years, but that's just me. She has a list of people who are making videos, contributors on her Instagram, so please go check that out. Most of them are new to me. Amity Bloom is on there, and Joanna Clow is on there, but most of them are new to me, so it'll be really fun to see some new junk journalers. I mean, they're not necessarily new, but they're new to me. So there is Junk Journal January, and there are the prompts. Please go check out Meg Journals at Instagram, and I believe she has a YouTube channel as well with that information. So there is that. Let's see. I completed the cross-stitch blank tag to put on the front of a journal for next year. In another couple days, basically. And I just used string and a needle to do it. I just kind of guesstimated at the size on where to stitch, but it was a lot of fun. It's a little thick, but it'll be great on the top of a journal, maybe between an 1/8 and a 16th inch, I guess, is the total width. And I just put a piece of card on the back of it. I glued it down and clamped it so that it would stay in place. And these are called Cabalock wooden cross-stitch blanks, and I got them on Amazon. Cabalock, Cabilock. I got 16 for $13. So, I mean, you can do anything with them, but I just wanted to do one for a tag. And then I put a larger eyelet in it and smashed the eyelet to make it kind of flat. So that's that. All right, I did finish my Harry Potter journal, or no, not journal, I lied. My Harry Potter car, I did it last night. I found out some friends weren't going to be able to go to Disneyland on my actual birthday after all, which is totally fine. I want them to go when it's a great time for them, so we'll go later in the year. But I was just a little bit, tiny bit bummed. And so I put this together, and oh my gosh, Kay is a viewer, and she is a sweetheart, and she sent me lots of the Harry Potter figurines, the Lego figurines. So I'm kind of blaming her on this. And oh my gosh, can you go down the Harry Potter Lego rabbit hole really quickly? And they get spendy. I bought myself the Dobby one for my birthday, because I can. But I won't be buying many of these kits. But anyway, it's got a little trunk, and it was super easy to put together, and it was a lot of fun. Ron's driving, and then there's Harry and Hedwig, and there's Scabbers on there. I figured Scabbers was a free ride. So I put it up on my shelf with the Harry Potter figurines, and that was a lot of fun. So I wanted to show you that. Thank you to whoever sent me these really cool, they're ink pens, but they're ballpoint pens, I believe. And so somebody sent them to me. There's 2 different colors. I didn't do a December daily this year. I just didn't have it in me. But I stole this from my mom. My mom does cross-stitch all the time. She watches Floss Tube and does all kinds of things. And I generally steal one. And I hadn't stolen one from her in a long, long time. But I'm really into cardinals this year. And so I'll cross-stitch the word daily down here. I'm not a great cross-stitcher, but I can do it. But for next year's. And so I'll use these pens. I'll put that in my December daily for next year. So thank you to whoever. It was from Amazon, and there was no note. So whichever viewer it was, that was really, really sweet of you. Thank you. Moving that aside, let's see, what else did I have to do? December daily pins. Oh, simplify. Somebody asked me what I'm going to do for my word of the year. I said I was going to do simplify, and I got these letters to hang up on my wall from Hobby Lobby, and I've got them all in here. They do spell simplify, but I'll hang them up above my closet
to spell simplify for the year. And then I'll make a sign for the Einstein quote for the front of my journal. So they're all there, but that's, I don't know, they're maybe what, 6-8 inches or something like that. Yeah, they're about 8 inches tall, and they're just simple metal letters, and they weren't spendy. I want to say they were at the half off day, and they were maybe $1 or $2 a piece. So there are those. I'm going to use those. So simplify bookbinding tape. Somebody asked me about bookbinding tape, or what could I use tape to tape, one of these journals. And you absolutely can. The paper hinges aren't going to be as strong because this is bookbinding tape, but the bookbinding tape is also thicker, and it also is a little less forgiving. And what I mean by that is you can tear it. This is maybe 1 inch, 3/4 inch. This is 3/4 inch bookbinding, or just shy of 1 inch. So it's a little bit wider, and I believe they do make it narrower, but they don't make it super narrow. And let me just grab here. I'll use this. What the heck? I'll put it on the end or on the inside here. When I'm using bookbinding tape, I generally will take a ruler and make myself a line first, or if I had a magnetic ruler here, I would do this so that I can line it up. Because once it's down, it's down. You don't have the flexibility. I mean, you can tear it back up, sure, but it's going to tear your paper. So one of the things about the bookbinding is, and also you can't sew over the top of it because of the sticky. I can put glue on, and once the glue dries, I can sew over the top of it. And I like to sew in my journals, but you can't do that as much with the bookbinding tape. So if you want to use bookbinding tape, absolutely, but make sure you use a clear ruler or make yourself a line as a guide first, and then just be real careful with where you put it down. So there's that. I think that was it. Oh, Betsy. One of my viewers, Betsy, she has a YouTube channel, I Stamp C, and she is opening her shop next year. Or she had it open, and then she's opening it again sometime next year. And she sent me some really cool things. So if you're looking for a shop, and this is not an Etsy shop, I'll link her shop down below, or I'll put the name of the shop in there. I'll show you some of the things that she sells. And she's a stamper, so a lot of these are going to be used for stamping, but they also work really well for junk journals. So I'm going to just empty the box and show you some of the things that she's got. These are die cut holder, first ever ATC die cut holder. So these are pre-cut boxes that you can just assemble. You can decorate, stamp, paint, distress, whatever. And they're ATC holders. ATC is the cards that many people make. So there's that. I am not 100% sure. These look like, oh, they're chipboard, but I'm not sure. That one looks like a painter's palette. I'm not quite sure what exactly you make. I don't see a little diagram with it, but cool chipboard. Tim Holtz ruler book. Oh, with extra pages. That's really kind of cool. See, this is Tim Holtz ruler book that you can assemble with extra pages, and looks like there's different size pages, so you can kind of mix it up and match it up. So her shop will carry those. I don't know that. I think she just made this for me, which was really super duper sweet. But maybe, as a tab for the side of your journal, maybe she sells the die that is needed to make this, because it's really, really cool. You can just put that on, and there's automatically well, maybe I should go like this. You can put it on, and automatically there's a place for a dangle or something. And then these are metal discs that you can decorate and such. The Tim Holtz metal discs, she's going to carry those. And then clear old-fashioned room keys. And this is, I was going to say a Home Depot thing. It's, I don't remember. Gosh dang, I'm drawing a blank. But this is something that you use for home repair of some sort. And you can stamp on it and such, and it's really pretty cool. She sells sections of that.
And here are some more things it looks like that she had created for me. This is a double-sided paperclip, hidden paperclip bit with pockets on it, and it's really, really very cute. And so I'm looking forward to putting that. I love using fall colors, and so I'm looking forward to putting that in my own journal. So she's got a couple of those. These look like they are discs that you can put embossing. Yeah, they are. They're sticky discs that you can put embossing powder on, or that type of thing. Some string. I think these are for the snowflakes. She's got some wooden snowflakes, envelopes. In fact, these would work. These would work really well. Let's see. I'll just put 2 of these out here just for the heck of it. She also makes stamps, innovative stamp creations, and look how beautiful that is. These are red rubber stamps with words, and then a wood panel with butterflies. So there's that. And this looks like one of the magnifying lenses, so she must sell those. And a huge variety pack of tags, pre-done tags in different sizes, 3 different sizes. So 60, 90, 100 tags in one envelope bags, which is really cool. Leather samples, which is absolutely freaking fabulous. I'm looking forward to playing with these. More of those sticky back shapes. This looks like a really thin metal that you can stamp on. So those will be fun to play with. And then more of her own stamps, beautiful flowers. And there's 2, looks like, no, it's 1 red rubber sheet. So really pretty. You can draw the stem and then stamp that. And then this looks like a pocket. Oh, I know, this is from something else. It's a pocket heart that I had. I must have tossed it in here by mistake. And then she has embossed, maybe this is some of that chipboard. I bet you this is that chipboard that she sent. And she put paper on each side and did a little dangle, which is beautiful. And then box and card Maya Road items. She must sell these as well. Oh, yeah. See? Oh, very cool. So a little box to put them in, and then cards that you can decorate. They're a little bigger than ATC, I believe, but they're very, very cool. So her shop name, and I'll link it below, is innovativestampcreations.com, and she said she's opening it this year, and I don't know exactly which day, but she's reopening her shop then. So please do check out Betsy's YouTube channel and that. Okay, now 12 minutes in, and we're finally getting going, because I generally talk. Oh, and she made this too. Isn't that cute? It's a wooden block with stamps on it. Oh, that's really pretty. That will absolutely have to go. No kidding. Have to go on one of my journals this year. And this looks like it's the ultra thick embossing powder to make it nice and thick and shiny and sturdy. I'll look forward to using that. Thank you, Betsy. Okay, these. I did this one yesterday and I finished it. And I'm going to show you how to make this. And then well, where the heck did I put them? I had some envelopes up here. Oh, they're down there. Okay. Finished this one. Let me walk you through this one first. It is based on something that I saw Kara Brandon create. It's a W or an M, depending on which way you look at it. And then she said she got it from Edith at Scrapbooking with Me. And I've seen them before. They're not new. They just kind of reintroduced them. And when I saw the long thing, it made me think list, which is why this is a list maker's journal, because I like to make lists. So this was, I used Tracie's kit from Creative Expressions. I used the 3 different stamp sets that she's got and her Entomology paper. So that's what I used to create this. Most of this, and then I'll show you. So this was a cluster that I had, and I just added a couple more bits to it and sewed this on. And I used this as my closure for my front. So there's 3 different stamp pads in here. Used it for my closure for the front piece. And then you just open this up, and there is a belly band. And I am going to use, I found these last time we went to Rainier National Park. We live really close to Mount Rainier. And last time I found these playing cards. And they're really, really pretty. They have different Washington scenes in here. Like this is the whole rainforest. And This is a mountain in the North Cascades. It's too small for me to read right now. So the ferry system, Mount St. Helens, all the San Juan Islands, just some of the famous Seattle or Washington State landmarks. There's Seattle itself, and you can see Rainier, and the mountain is out. Okay, here's Mount Rainier. This is the one I live close to. I'll use that as my sample. Anyway, I thought all the journals and such I make this year, I would tuck in one of these cards. This is Mount Rainier. It's near, I'm sorry, this is not. This is Mount Baker, which is further south and west. But anyway, I live right by Rainier, and I got it there. So simple tuck here, simple tuck here, stamped with Tracie stamps, and then I just used some gold to brighten it up. The goal with this is flat, and I'm epically bad at flat. I make everything way too chunky. So I tried hard to make this really thin. So there's the first list, the first pass. And then I did a double closure on the lid. So this one tucks in, and then this second stamp pad, the closure wraps around and does a double. So you can close it. It's got some Velcro bits as closure. So you can close it like this over the top, or you can tuck it underneath. The Velcro closure works either way. I just thought that was kind of a fun way to do it. Somebody else has probably done it, but I haven't seen it. So there you go. And then this is just a simple belly band inside, or not a belly band, a simple tuck on the side. And then there's the second notepad. And then close this up. You don't have to close it, but close that up. And then this closure, it's the one on this side. And these are some pockets from the open envelope. Right? And this, the reason for the sheen is I used Seth Apter Vintage Beeswax. So I used Tracie's paper, and then I used an embossing pen, and then the Seth Apter Vintage Beeswax to make those flower centers pop out a little bit more. And then these are just stamps from the Entomology kit, as is this. And that is mostly it. And then the fun thing I did, I've never seen it. I imagine someone somewhere's done it because pretty much everything has been done. But what I did, because this is a list maker's journal, I took a piece of chipboard and I used, my friend Carrie Bradford makes stamps. She makes gorgeous stamps, lots and lots of alphabets, but she's more of a planner type person. And then this one's called Highlights. And then there's some, month, day, year planner type stamps. And I took some of these stamps and put them in here to include in my list maker's journal. Like checkbox and date and that type of a thing. And the way I made this, and so the stamps are actually right here on and it's not super thick because those stamps aren't really thick stamps, right here on the bookmark. And the way I did it was I took a piece of chipboard and I used my larger Tim Holtz trimmer because this chipboard is fairly thick. This one was from a box of something or other. I took a piece of chipboard and cut it to the size that I needed. And then I took some of this window film transparency and cut it to size. And then I sewed on my sewing machine. I sewed the transparency right down to the cut down chipboard. And then I took a second piece, the exact same size, and I sewed it only to the top, to the very top. And then I put an eyelet through it to hold it in place. But that way it protects I don't have to worry about gunk getting on the stamps. The stamps stick to the clear acetate, and then this top sheet, which is attached through being sewn on, folds over the top. And then I can just leave those right in my little list book. I thought that was kind of fun. Again, if somebody's done it, I apologize. I've not seen it, and I wanted to include it in here. So this is essentially what we're going to be making today. When I make lists, I usually write way too much, and I've got too many things to do on my list by the time I get to a list. So I wanted long and lean, which is why I went with that format for this journal. And calling it the List Maker's Journal. And then I thought, well, gosh, because I do that. I thought, why not be able to use a pastry bag? Maybe somebody doesn't have maybe somebody doesn't have envelopes or what have you, and they can use pastry bags. So I did the same thing with a pastry bag. And I actually filmed this, and after an hour, it was just, I'd made a mistake, and it was a mess, and I just decided, nope, I'll just show you my finished project.
And I used this. So maybe you don't make digitals or you don't buy digitals, but you've got some scrapbook paper. This is 49 in Market Krafty Garden. And I've had this set for way too long. And I used the 6x8 paper pad. And then, so that's what I used. I had some rub-ons and some die cut pieces, and I used that for this particular one. And it's the same exact thing, only I used pastry bags this time instead of envelopes. And it's just a slightly different format. It's the same fold, and it opens up, and there's still a tuck here, and then these are just pieces from the paper. And I used a different ledger paper pad that I had, and a tuck spot there. So that's the first fold, or the first paper list pad, and then you open it up, the same exact type of thing. And that's the second one, and this one had some rub-ons, so I used some rub-ons on there and some bits again, and this. And I put the bookmark on this one. Now this time I didn't include stamps, but this was called Flower Garden, so one of the cut apart pieces in here was the Flower Garden, so I used that to make a bookmark. Again, I put it on chipboard, and then I put some dried baby's breath on top, and then I put another piece of that window film, and I sewed all the way around. You can glue it. I just much prefer the finished result. When I sew it, I have a lot better results. Now, I don't use a fancy sewing machine. Maybe someday I'll get an industrial machine, but this is just a regular sewing machine, and it handled it no problem. I don't know that all machines would, but this one handled it no problem. And I tore a little bit here, so I just put some of that faux vintage cellophane tape on it to hold it in place. I had folded it in correctly because there's no flaps on pastry bags, and so it didn't fold exactly right, which is where the hassle came in. So here, I'll show you this piece, because the center was shorter, have to fold it this way. And this is just a lace belly band for that center bit. And then there's the last notepad. So there it is with a pastry bag. Same concept, just a little bit different finished product. And fold it down like that. I use Velcro closures again, and then I used a Velcro piece here. So these are what we'll be making. You can alter it and use the pastry bags like I did, but I'm going to be doing it with envelopes this time. And you can use any size envelopes. Now, if you are wanting a longer list, like you can see here, these are longer envelopes. If you've got something like this, you can use this, and because you are going to fold it in half. So this would be a short, wide kind of a thing. So I would tuck one of these envelopes in here to the crease like this, right? That's how you attach them. And then you fold both of these pieces back. A glue here, and then you fold back and you fold back. And that makes your M or your W, depending on which way you want to do it. Because the paper I picked out won't, I guess it would work with this, but I mean, you can do it with this size too, is what I'm trying to say. So let me put these away. And these, I'll make another one with that. I have some different paper, but this I am going to use with this paper. I had found it recently when I was putting things back in my room, and I wanted to roll my eyes at myself because I have had this for way too long, and I've only used it for one or two small things. So I am going to use this paper, the Stamperia paper collection. I had started, like I said, I'd started to make the videos, so I'd started to make one of these envelopes, but I'll show you how to do it. And then I thought, because you know I'm me, I thought, what if people don't have, this size envelope? Well, pretty much everybody has these mailers. And so I thought, well, how can we make it work with these mailers? So instead of 2 envelopes, I got 3. And I'm going to play with it here. So you obviously would cover these. You could coffee dye them if you chose to, or not. What I'm going to do is close the flap. Now these have a different orientation. And if I were to fold this in half like this, like the other one, that would be a really, really thin list, because these are just a standard business envelope. They're what, 3.5 inches? Yeah, 3.5 by 8 or 9 or whatever they are. So what I'm going to do on this one, I'm going to alter it slightly. I'm just playing with it. I haven't actually done it, so I don't know that it works, but I think it will. I'm going to glue that flap closed.
I belong to the NEA, National Education Association, so I get lots of these buy this insurance kind of things, and so I save those envelopes. So glued both of those closed. 2 envelopes, glued both of those closed. Now, I need a hinge here because I don't have the flaps to tuck together. And so I thought with a 3rd envelope, what I'll do, I want it to be thin because I would put paper on top of it. So what I'm going to do here is use this as another envelope flap as a hinge. And I can use this envelope for something else at another point. It's not a wasted envelope by any means, but I'm just going to borrow that little flap. And let's see, what did I say those are? About 3.5. And so I'll cut this down to about 3.5. And now with the same exact paper, I've got a hinge. Is that right? 3.5? Yep, that works just fine. And I can hinge this together, just kind of like what we did yesterday. It has a natural crease right there. They don't have to be exactly the same because I'm going to cover them and I will glue them. And I do this too when I hate to lick envelopes or get them wet, so I just pretty much use glue, and I figure the glue will activate it. So I'm going to hinge them like this. So maybe it's a smidge over 3.5. That's okay, doesn't matter. And like this, and I don't want them to actually touch, just close to touch. Because if I use this, it's going to get a little bit bigger. So you can see there's just a smidge of a gap, maybe an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch, something like that. All right, now I've got my hinged envelope. I didn't make it perfectly straight, but that's okay. It'll fix, you can fix it when you put, I'm going to trim this piece off the very top to make the top tuck. So that unevenness wouldn't even show. Now I'm going to do the same thing, and I've got these 2 sides, and fold the edge of the envelope back toward the center where I've created the hinge or where I've glued the flaps. And then I'll flip it over and do the same thing. And so maybe if you're a person who doesn't have really long lists, maybe you have shorter lists, maybe a journal this size would work better for you. And then there's your W or your M, depending on which way you want to say it. And then you would just create the journal just like this. So I would decorate my journal list would be, or my list would be here. And then the second one, my list would be here. Then I open it up and then my list is here. So it would work just fine. You could make it a cute little fun one with mailing envelopes. I am going to refer to these this way when I make it. I'm calling it a W, and the 2 bottom mountains go down to my left, and the top center mountain will come to my right. So just you can make it the opposite way. You can absolutely do it this way, but because I want it to open on the right-hand side, this is the way I'm doing it. The 2 valleys, I suppose you could say, are on the left, and the 1 valley, the center valley, is on the right. Okay, I've got this one already folded, but I'll show you here. Coffee dyed envelopes. These are a little bit larger envelopes. I don't know what these are. They're 5x8 or something like that, 5x7 maybe. And I'm only going to tuck in one of these because I used this as a guide. This is the pastry bag one. I used this as a guide for my flap. Now I covered the flap with Tracie's paper, but I used the flap itself as a guide. So I want to retain this flap. I want to save it. So I'll leave this one up and I'll tuck this one in. So I'm going to tuck the envelope on the right-hand side. I'm going to tuck that flap inside the left envelope, and I'm going to glue it down. I usually tuck it first, but you can use glue stick if you want. And I don't want it to go all the way to where it meets because it will catch as you fold it. So I'm going to pull it out just a smidge, maybe an 1/8 of an inch, but I do want it to be straight, so I'll be careful, aware of that. And that's it. Now I'm going to lift this up and tuck glue. I'm not going to glue this. I'm going to tuck glue right, unless of course you spill the glue on there, Corey. tuck the glue right under the edge and glue this down. Okay. All right, so that's glued. Now I am going to, I really hope I did that right. Yeah, I did. Okay, then I'm going to take the right-hand side and the left-hand side, and I'm going to fold them back on themselves. Now, when I do this, because this is a little bit thicker, it's been coffee dyed, which makes it a little thick, and it's a little bit thicker of an envelope anyway, so it doesn't always fold really nicely right there. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll stick my bone folder in there to make sure that it's folding where I want it to. I'll just kind of press down like that. And then I'm folding it back on itself, and then I'll press with the bone folder, and I'll do the same thing on this side. I'll make sure it's creased down and straight, and then I will press it in place. Okay, and so that is the right side of my folder, and I'm going to flip it around and do the exact same thing with the left. So you can see with the flap there, it looks just slightly different. It can be discombobulating, but just pretend it doesn't exist, because we use that for our closure. Okay. All right. And I'm going to score that down. And again, this is where we are. The two bottom valleys are on my left. The top valley is on my right. This is going to be the base for my first closure. Now, because I'm going to put a notepad in here, it's going to be a little bit thick or a little bit bulky. I can score it, or I can just fold it and roll it. Either way will work just fine. You can score it, and about 1/4 of an inch or so that it rolls with your, you don't even have to score it. I'm going to, see how I'm going to do it like this? It's going to roll a little bit, because when you put the notepads in there, it gets a little bulky. And I'm not doing a sharp crease, I'm just kind of doing a roll crease. See what I mean there? There's a little bit of a track down in there, if you will. And I want that space. I don't want to pull it tight and fold it tight. So, like about so. And this is going to be the basis for this first closure. This first one will go here. And it'll wrap around, and that'll make our first notepad. Okay? And then the second one will go back here, and it'll wrap around the whole thing, and it'll be a little bit shorter. So the first one is going to tuck into our cluster. And then the second one, I will use Velcro dots. Maybe I'll use Velcro dots. I thought I put them out here, but maybe I didn't. I'll use Velcro dots to, well, heck, I thought I did. I'll use Velcro dots to close this. To keep that closed and to keep this close. They've got to be around here somewhere, because I deliberately pulled them out. Well, when we get there, I have more in the drawer if need be. So that's how we do this piece. Okay, so there you've got your first set, right? And you're almost, that's it. That's what you need to do. And then the rest is just kind of decorating, and I'll show you that. Oh, back to what I was saying. I've had this Stamperia Vintage Library for a really long time, and I want to use it. And I started to pull pieces out and make my selections, and then I thought, no, people have asked that I show how I figure it out. I don't always love what my end result is, but usually I'm pretty happy with it. So I've got the Stamperia set that I've had for way too long, because Vintage Library, that's how I roll. And this came with it. I don't even have this is a mold. I don't even have the stuff that you put in to make the mold, but I'll get it at some point next time I go to a craft store or something. So there's a lot of pieces. And then there's really cool chipboard pieces, and I absolutely love these, but they're just, the goal is with this notepad is to make it not super bulky and super thick. I mean, I don't mind a little bulk, but not chipboard thick. So I'm going to put those to the side. I've also got these really cool stencils. So if I want to stencil something, I can. It's got words in here and scroll work and really cool stencils. Again, that was part of the kit. Had this for a year or two. I'm not sure 100% when it came out, but really, really like that. What I will probably use, also I've got some tissue paper
There's a couple rub-ons if I want to use that. This really, really cool tissue paper, which would be ideal because it's thin, but let's see, Cards Collection Vintage Library. That's the person who created it. Anyway, I've got all the pieces. I've got all the things. So I'll put that over here. Here, and I've got both 8x8 and 12x12. And then this piece is the cutouts. And hello, that looks like Hedwig. So I'm probably going to end up using that simply because it's a magical vintage library and because Hedwig. And I don't know that I am going to show you all the decorating because, you know, that part doesn't involve construction skill. That's just, you know, personal preference. And you saw the other two, and you know, like which tag you use and which label you use and how do you layer them, and that is all just personal preference. So, oh, I'm definitely using a book. Maybe not Jane Eyre. I mean, I have nothing against Jane Austen. I just think she's phenomenal, but that's just too much angst for me on a continual basis. But anyway, I will absolutely use these, probably for the bottom tuck or something. Maybe with a word and one of these labels. So that part is just, that part isn't construction, that part's just plain. There's also this larger tissue paper. How beautiful is that? So if I wanted to make it truly thin, oh, be still my heart. I don't often read actual books anymore. I mean, physical books, because my eyeballs get fuzzy, but I read on my Kindle all the time and I listen to Audible all the time. I probably read 30 plus books a month. So that just makes me happy, all kinds of happy. So I'll probably use something along these lines. And again, these are tissue paper. I could use these. And then there's this 12x12, which is a little longer than I need, but there's some really cool images. And I have both the background paper, double-sided for making cards. Look at that. Rows and rows of books. That is just happy. And then here's spines of books. Oh, and that one's a scrapbook. That's pretty funny. Just glorious. Look at that texture and color. So this is backgrounds. All the words. Might have to use that too. And then here is the pieces. And then there's all kinds of cut aparts and such here. Look at that stack of books. That is calling to me. That is probably going to go on one of the pages. And I don't know. I'll look in the 8x8 set and see if I have it there. But isn't that just phenomenal? Yes, I will be using that. And look at that cute little owl. Okay, I could sit here and gush over this forever. Love, love, love this set. Stamperia Vintage Library is what it's called. Okay, so let me show you how I created. There's really only a couple pieces that you have to quote unquote create here. And that is this closure and then the wraparound closure, and they're essentially the same thing. And then once that wraparound closure is on, you just put a piece of cardstock and it closes this bit. And I'll show you how to do that. Again, the rest is all in your notepad. So you can use ready-made notepads. I cut down paper and then just sew across the top and glue it right in. That's kind of how I do it. But let me show you this part before I talk anymore. I must have gotten 2 of these because my goodness, they're glorious. So let's see what we're going to do to cover this first bit. And that would essentially be this piece. This piece right here is our first one, and this piece right here is our first one. So just as a comparison. I'm looking, oh, this must be the backgrounds. Ah, this is the backgrounds. Those books are just, all the books. So this is the background ones, and I'll use that for a solid paper because look how pretty that is. Maybe, I don't know. And so maybe I shouldn't have brought you along for this part. Oh my gosh. That is just phenomenal. Look at the different genres too. Ugh. And then these are smaller tags. I'll have to come back and show you the completed journal when I'm done. Oh my goodness. Look at that. I may use this piece for this because I absolutely love it. So let's pull that out. And I really love that book stack of books, so let's pull that out. The orientation is not the way I want to go with it here. But then again, look at that little cutie. Oh, look at that with the little wizard. Kind of looks a little bit like Dumbledore. I really like that too.
Let's see, which one? There's not much color contrast there, but oh my gosh, that's glorious. This is tough. Okay, I'll pull this piece out. Oh, and then they have some smaller images. I'll definitely use some of those, and then cutouts and cut aparts and all the happiness. Okay, let's see. Do I want to do this one? This is the big challenge here. Do I want to use this one? That's really busy. This is at least tone on tone, so I think I might use, you know what? I am going to use this because I really, really love it. Okay. All that talking aside, this is about just under it's 1 3/4 inches, this particular flap. So I want it to be 1 3/4 inches to cover this. And then I want it to wrap around and be a tuck spot on this side. And this is a little bit narrower. So 1 3/4 plus another 1 1/2. So I want this to be about 4 inches total. 1 3/4 and 1 1/2. That would be 3 inches, Corey, not 4 inches. So let's go about 3 1/4. You know what? Let's not overthink it. This looks like a great place to cut this, and that's cutting at 3 1/2. So we're going to make this 3 1/2 inches, and I am just going to cut it where the natural door is. That's a good place to cut it, and so that's where I'm going to cut it. And down here I would be cutting off the candle if I were to cut at the bottom, so I will cut at the top to make it fit. I'm going to trim just a little bit off because that's really pretty, and that'll be great for a cluster. And then rather than measuring, I'm just going to eyeball it like this and make a mark, and then I'll cut that top bit off so that it's the right height. Cut just under that because I don't want it to hang over the top, and I will save these little bits to use as clusters later. So I've got this piece. Now my first thing I'm going to do is glue it right down here, right on top of that, and then I'll wrap this around and glue this down only on the back, top, and bottom. But because I don't want the white edge to show, I am going to ink it because this will be glued down as my tuck spot, and it will show if I don't ink it. You know, I was going to make this so much shorter than the last video, but nope, it's going to be every bit as long because I'm talking too much. Well, heck. So just taking the white edge off this, and a lot of times I will come in on this side too. I put a flat one on instead of a domed one. They have domed ones of these. I much prefer the domed, but I grabbed the wrong one, so this will work just fine. Okay, so we don't have a raw edge there. And then I am going to just glue this down. And I can use just thick white glue. So I'm going to put thick, maybe I can. I'm going to put the art glitter glue all over the top of this flap, this first flap. And I'll glue my paper down. I could use glue stick too, but it's cardstock, and Stamperia has thicker cardstock, so I want a good adhesion. I want this to stay put. Okay, and make sure it's going in the right direction. Yeah, here we go. And then I'll glue this down on the top, just like so. Yeah, I'll make a mess on there, but that's okay, I always do. All right, the height is good. I don't want it too, whoops, I didn't do it straight. So there we go. I don't want it too long, too short. Just like that. Then, where I had this rolled, I'm going to roll it again, right? This is going to eventually roll around the top, and it'll roll just like this. And I use this as my guideline. You can use a circle punch, or I'm sorry, a corner punch, but I'll just trim around this as my guideline. here. Okay. I didn't trim that perfectly, but sometimes when I've got just a little piece like that, I'll take my emery board instead of trying to trim it down, and it'll give me a smoother, rounder corner. I'm going to ink that edge anyway, so it won't show. Okay, and again, I want to roll it. Gosh, that's pretty. I want to roll this, and then this will be the closure for my first notepad, like that. I'm going to use this again. Now on here, this is probably, you know what, it can be a deep tuck. It doesn't have to be a really thin tuck, because when it opens, I can still tuck things in, and I really like that, so I'm going to leave it just like that. Now here, I do not glue right in this divot or this track. I'm going to glue because it's going to roll a little bit when I put the notepad in. So I'm going to move it up a little bit, and I'm going to put a single line of glue right here on the other side of that fold, because I don't want it to go all the way through or all the way around. And then I'll put glue right up on the top and the bottom. And then I will use some clamps, if I can unbury them. I'll use some clamps to hold it in place, because it takes just a minute for cardstock to hold in place with glue. It's just a little bit thicker. So these are the quilt clamps. You've seen them before if you've been on my channel. Sorry, it's getting later in the evening for me, and I get quieter as the day goes on. Don't tell my students that. Okay, here we go. So glued down, that is the first closure. And then I will use some of these bits, these pieces, to make the cluster tuck spot. And so that'll tuck in right there. I'll just glue it down halfway, and then this top piece, let's just say, we're gonna just, for the sake of pretend, I just don't want to take the time to do it, but so for the sake of pretend, let's say I was using this fairy tale book because it's really cute. It's too big, but that's okay. So I would glue just half of it down to my page, and then I would tuck, those two don't go together at all, but that's okay. Let's say I'm using this. Oh my goodness, I could cut that down. I love me some Edgar Allan Poe. So only glue the bottom piece, and then the top I leave free so that I can tuck this in. That's kind of how I did it both here and here. Only the bottom section is glued down. The top is open so you can tuck these pieces in. Same thing on this one. Only the bottom is glued, tuck the top in. So that's that piece. I'm getting sidetracked. Don't get sidetracked, Corey. And there's even a shimmer on these, like a fairy tale shimmer. Oh my gosh, they're pretty. All right, so now I need to do the piece that I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put another piece, and I'll make it into a side tuck. And instead of wrapping around one, it's going to wrap around both. And I think what I'll do, just for contrast, and because I'm going to put a book on there for sure, I think I'll use this side. Or maybe I'll use that. I think I'll use this. And I want this one, this next one, to be the same height. So let's unclip this, and let's trim this down. I'll mark it so we can trim it down. Save that scrap. And glued like this. I want this edge because I like the red. So what I'm going to do now is use this as my template, just like I did on this one. I'm going to put the edges up, and I'm going to take off, whoops, maybe I should move up a little bit more. There you go. I'm going to take off these corners. I can use a pencil or a pen, or I can just eyeball it, but I'm going to take off these corners so that it has the same shape. Okay, I don't know how well I'll be able to see that because of the pencil on the dark, but we'll make it work. Just taking off that little bit there. Oh, I really can't see it here. And that little bit there. Okay, again, does not have to be perfect. All right, then this, okay, I've got this one rolled here. I'm ready to tuck it in when it's done. And now here, I'm gonna have my second layer. I want it to overlap, but I don't want it to overlap a ton. So I am going to clip these together so that I know it's straight and I know it's where I want it to be. Make sure they're even. Make sure it's straight. Just clip it. And then I will wrap, did I move it? Nope, it's still straight. Okay. Then I will wrap it around again, just like I did before, and I'm not going to make it really tight. I will score this. Take it off and I will score it. So you can see I just kind of did a loose fold, and that is where I am going to score it. And in this particular case, it is at about 1 inch or so. I think this one was about the same thing. So it's at about 1 inch. You don't have to score it, you can just fold it up, but I just want to make sure that I've got a good crease so I can see where I'm going to line it up. Pardon me. Now I'm going to go about 1/4 of an inch in and score it again, because I want that roll. By the time I get 2 notepads in there and then the notepad in the back, I'm going to need a little bit of a track. And so that's what I've just created here, a little bit of a, you can see there, to go around the bulk. It's just about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, now this is going to be longer, so when it's done, it'll look like this, right? But this is too long for the back, so I'll use the paper as my guideline as far as where I want to cut it. And I think I just want a smidge of that to show. If I were being normal me, I'd probably sew some lace or something on there, because I really like lace, but again, my goal is thin. It's a good goal for me. Okay. So I'm going to ink this because this one's really hard to ink once it's glued down. The rest I can ink later. I'll do all the inking things later. Okay. And they're not super sharp, tight creases. I didn't use the bone folder. I'm just kind of rolling it around. Now I'm going to clamp this in place because I want it to be where I want it. Clamp it in place, and then I will glue this. Same exact thing. I'll glue right here on the edge. Let me make sure I'm not being a ding dong. Yeah, I want to glue it on the inside edge right here. Just so nothing rolls around. Wrap it around the whole thing. Make sure it's straight and even. And I will glue that down. And then I'll glue the edges. Right here and right here. Well, that came off. That was not one of my brighter moves. Let's put a little bit more glue there. Okay. Wrap it around the whole thing and glue it in place. Make sure it's straight, make sure it's even, and glue. And then I'll clamp until that glue dries. All right, so there are your 2 wraps, right? And then all we have left for this bit is this piece right here. And you know what? We can use this. This is a little wider than I would like, so I'll just trim this down to maybe 1/2 inch or so. I think that's what I did on the others, maybe a little less than 1/2 inch. Something about that. Yeah, there you go. That's a 1/2 inch. And then I would normally put my closures. So whatever I'm using for the bottom closure, and I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do. Well, I just tore that. That was not right. So let's say I'm going to use this book. Ooh, that's not a good fit. Let's say I'll use, here's a red tag. Oh man, the owl is so flippin' cute. Okay, so let's say I'm using this owl as my closure. I can put a ribbon or something here, maybe put an eyelet in. I would probably put something else here because I want something a little bit thicker to hold it in place. So let's just say I'm doing that. I'm not losing anything at the bottom. Let's say I'm going to use this as my closure. I want to make sure whatever I'm going to use for my closure is in place first so that I know my placement for my wrap is okay. And you know, if I were using this as my closure, I don't love this as my wrap. Because, well, you know what? The colors do play nicely together. Is there anything else that I've got that would work well for a wrap? Oh, you know what? Did I have any more of the red? I don't think I did, but I do like that. Okay, so plan B. I really do like the red on there because of the layers of red, and we're going to use red. So I'm going to cut this little scrap that I saved, cut it down, and I think it'll be long enough. We're going to find out. We will find out. And then I can ink this later. Doesn't have to be inked now. Gosh, those are fun. Oh, look at this one. Isn't that cute? That says adventure. Anyway, sidetracked. So I want this red to show, right? And I'm going to fold this piece down just a little bit because when I'm putting my Velcro closure on, I find that it works a little bit better if I have just a little bit more dimension. So I fold the end down just a little sturdier to give it a little extra. And so then I'll glue the Velcro closure, which will turn up at some point. Glue the Velcro closure right here, and then I hold it in place. And I wrap this around like this. Again, not super tight because of the notepad that's going inside. And then I've got to ink this because it's going to be glued down. So I can't glue it after, or I can't ink this piece after. Okay, I really hope this is clear. When it gets late at night, we're leaving tomorrow for Boise, so I wanted to get this done before I go in case anybody wants to get started on their make a fun, quick project. And this should technically be quick. It's just I was long-winded. Story of my life. Okay, right about there, I'm thinking. And then what I do is I'll just put glue on this whole piece right here. And I'll tuck it under that spot. And like so, and I wrap it loosely around. And then I have room. I have a little bit of wiggle room here for my thicker piece. And I'll put a Velcro dot under there, 3 Velcro dots on here, and then I'll put my closure piece, definitely not that. And oh, that looks better. I like that with the red. And I'll put my closure piece here. Oh, look how cute that is. There's so many fun pieces. I could get sidetracked all day with those. And that is the construction. That is all there is to the construction. And then you put your list here, and on one I just made this as a tuck spot, and then on here I did a belly band, and then your list, and then you open this one and you've got your side tuck and your list, and then this is the back. And what I did on this one is I don't remember if I said it or not, I used these alphabet stamps to do notes and quotes, and then I stamped one of Tracie's images there, but I could use one of the dies or the rub-ons or something and do the same type of thing here. Did I do anything on the back of this one? No, this is just the paper. I just left the paper the way it was. And again, I can do a different kind of tag or what have you on the top. what are those things called? Bookmarks. Last step before we're going to call this undecorated but done construction-wise, making sure I'm on the top. I open this up and I take off literally a tiny, tiny, tiny sliver because I'm going to have to do a little bit of glue, but I want that. Okay, this is not going to work because, okay, Plan B. That is way too thick for that trimmer. So I'll have to use this trimmer. And I'm just going to take that little itty bitty sliver off so that I can put that bookmark in. Maybe I have to move it out a little bit. I didn't go out far enough. See, I'm really trying to take just a sliver off. Okay, there we go. Now you can see, because of the way it's glued, that it was held closed. So this, because I cut it, well, and I didn't even do a great job cutting it, did I? I'm going to glue these back down. That's the envelope open and close. I'm going to glue those right back down. I don't need those to be open. Look, this lifted up, so I'll just glue that back down too. Probably did that in the coffee bath. And then I'll glue this piece right here down. I don't need that to be open. I mean, I could tuck something in there again, but I'm going with thin. I don't want thick. Not on this one. I'll glue that down. And then the last piece is, the last one that's open is the one in the very back. And that is where I put the bookmark, whatever bookmark I make. And oh, Lord knows there's plenty of cool things to make bookmark in there. I'll probably do a tuck spot bookmark. And that is that. There is the construction. An hour to get through that very, very simple project. But I promise it won't take you that long to do it because you don't have to listen to me jabber on and on and on. All right, I'll be gone for a few days, and then I've got some projects that I'm going to share when I get back. I will show you my Life Simplified journal and show you some options there, including the categories that I put in that. I'll show you how to make the flower press. Somebody else asked that I show how to use linens and such to make pockets, and so I'll do that. And then I'll have to go back to work, and life will be returning to normal. But I do have the entire next week off, so starting next week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, I should be able to share some videos. All right, I hope that was helpful. I hope I didn't talk you to death. And thank you very much for watching, for your kindness, and a very, very happy New Year to you all.